cone of silence?
First of all, how much...
What if I told you that one of the most iconic characters in television history, the bumbling Maxwell Smart, was never supposed to exist as we know him? Behind the beloved spy spoof that made phrases like, "Would you believe?" and "Sorry about that, Chief," a part of our cultural lexicon, lies a treasure trove of bizarre secrets, bitter network battles, and deeply personal struggles. Tonight, we are opening the secret files on Stalag 13. Wait, wrong show. We're opening the secret files on Control. We are counting down the 15 weirdest, most shocking, and often poignant facts you never knew about the making of Get Smart. From casting choices that almost changed everything to the heartbreaking truth behind one of its most beloved actors, this is the untold story of the spy show that was so much more than just a comedy. 15. Control and chaos are completely meaningless acronyms. We begin our countdown with a secret that perfectly encapsulates the show's satirical spirit. For years, fans have debated what the names of the two rival spy agencies, Control and Chaos, actually stand for. The truth? They stand for absolutely nothing. Creators Mel Brooks and Buck Henry never bothered to come up with full names for either organization. The decision was a deliberate parody of the spy genre, which was wildly popular in the 1960s. Real-life agencies like the CIA and fictional ones like UNCLE all had official-sounding acronyms. Brooks and Henry wanted their organizations to have that same authoritative, secretive feel, but with a layer of absurdity. Control sounds like the kind of name a top-secret government agency would have, while Chaos perfectly suggests the chaotic nature of an international criminal syndicate. That surface-level impression was all the creators felt they needed. The fact that these names are essentially meaningless is the ultimate joke. In the world of Get Smart, things only need to sound important, perfectly mirroring Maxwell Smart himself, a man who projects an air of competence while being a complete buffoon. The iconic shoe phone was technologically impossible. Maxwell Smart's most famous gadget, the iconic shoe phone, became a cultural symbol of spy technology. But here's the secret. It was completely and utterly impossible to create with the technology of the 1960s. The Central Intelligence Agency itself later confirmed this, putting one of Don Adams's original prop shoes on display in the CIA museum with a label that dismissed it as pure fantasy. During the time the show was filmed, telephone technology required bulky components and direct wired connections. The most advanced mobile phones of the era were car-mounted units that weighed dozens of pounds. The prop shoe phones used on the show were clever fakes, constructed from dress shoes that had been hollowed out and fitted with dummy rotary dials and non-functional components. The removable heel, which contained the receiver, was held in place by simple pins. The show's creators were fully aware that their gadget was impossible. In fact, that was part of the joke. The shoe phone was designed as a direct parody of the increasingly fantastical gadgets featured in the James Bond films, pushing the concept to a level of absurdity that highlighted how ridiculous the entire spy tech trope had become. Hymie the Robot's physically impossible weight. The beloved robot character Hymie, who appeared in just 6 episodes but became an icon, had a secret that defied the laws of physics. According to the show's official storyline, Hymie weighed exactly 982 pounds, about 445 kilograms. This absurd weight specification was meant to emphasize his robotic nature and explain his incredible superhuman strength, which allowed him to do things like survive being shot multiple times and defeat a gorilla in hand-to-hand combat. What made this detail so amusingly bizarre was that the actor who played him, Dick Gautier, was a perfectly ordinary-sized man who moved around normally and never seemed to cause any structural damage, despite supposedly weighing as much as a small car. The show's writers gleefully ignored the logical problems this would create. such as how Hymie could walk on the upper floors of buildings without crashing through the ceiling. This detail perfectly exemplified the show's comedic approach to science fiction, where official technical specifications sounded impressive but made no practical sense whatsoever, perfectly fitting the series' satirical take on spy technology. Maxwell Smart's voice was stolen from a 1930s movie star, Don Adams's distinctive, clipped, and slightly nasal speaking style for Maxwell Smart is one of the most recognizable voices in television history. But it wasn't his invention. Adams admitted in interviews that he directly and deliberately imitated the actor William Powell. Specifically, the way Powell would call to his dog in the classic Thin Man movie series from the 1930s and 40s. Powell played the sophisticated detective Nick Charles, and he would frequently call out to his wire fox terrier, Asta, with a sharp, precise vocal delivery that Adams found hilarious. Powell's voice had a unique quality that combined authority with a slightly nasal tone. Adams took these vocal mannerisms and exaggerated them, creating the distinctive speaking pattern that would become Smart's trademark. The irony is that what started as an attempt to sound like a sophisticated movie detective became the voice of television's most incompetent secret agent, transforming Powell's smooth authority into Smart's bumbling and unearned confidence. Agent 99's real name remained a top-secret mystery. Agent 99's real name was a complete mystery throughout the entire 5-year run of the show, a secret the writers guarded more closely than any real-world intelligence agency. They went to extraordinary lengths to keep it hidden, most famously during her wedding ceremony with Maxwell Smart. Fans eagerly awaited the moment when the minister would finally say her name, but the writers had other plans. They arranged for another character, Admiral Hargrade, to fall asleep and snore loudly at the exact moment the name was spoken, completely drowning out the words. The show had teased viewers with potential names on other occasions. In one episode, Max calls her Ernestine, and in another, she uses the alias Susan Hilton, but she always confirmed that these were not her real name. This deliberate and persistent mystery became one of the show's best-running gags, creating a situation where one of television's most famous and beloved female characters remained completely and permanently anonymous. 10. The Chief's constant secrecy was hiding real pain, Edward. Platt's portrayal of the perpetually exasperated Chief of Control is a masterclass in comedic frustration, but a secret behind his character's most noticeable physical trait, the fact that he was almost always sitting behind his desk, was anything but funny. Throughout the filming of Get Smart, Platt suffered from severe and debilitating back problems. The pain was sometimes so intense that standing or walking for extended periods was impossible, forcing him to be completely written out of entire episodes. This chronic condition is the real reason why the Chief is so often seen seated in his office, creating a dynamic where an energetic Maxwell Smart would pace around, while his boss remained firmly planted in his chair. What audiences interpreted as the Chief's calm, authoritative, and stoic demeanor was actually the performance of a man managing his physical limitations and constant pain while still delivering a brilliant comedic performance. Production records even show that for certain episodes, Platt's absence was officially noted as being due to his back problems, a sad reality hidden behind the laughter. 9. The on-set tricks to hide Agent 99's height. In the 1960s, a rigid, unspoken rule of Hollywood dictated that the male lead should always appear taller than his female co-star. This created a constant logistical challenge on the set of Get Smart because Barbara Feldon, who played Agent 99, stood at 5'9", while Don Adams, Maxwell Smart, was slightly shorter at 5'8.5". To solve this problem, the directors and camera operators had to use a variety of clever tricks. In many scenes, Feldon can be seen deliberately slouching, leaning against furniture, or sitting down to reduce her apparent height relative to Adams. She later admitted she became an expert at finding ways to make herself look shorter. For close-up shots where they needed to be at the same eye level, The crew built a series of small wooden platforms for Adams to stand on, all carefully positioned just out of the camera's frame. These behind-the-scenes accommodations were so common that they became second nature, with Feldon automatically adjusting her posture and Adams instinctively looking for his platform markers whenever they filmed a scene together. 8. The Cone of Silence was a real-life sales pitch. The famous, and famously malfunctioning, Cone of Silence became one of the show's most iconic recurring gags. But this single comedic bit was so central to the show's concept that it was actually filmed before the rest of the pilot. The creators, Mel Brooks and Buck Henry, used the completed scene as a specific demonstration piece to sell the show to network executives. They believed this one scene perfectly captured the essence of their spy parody. The joke, of course, was that the device, designed for top-secret conversations, made it impossible for the people inside to hear each other while allowing everyone outside to hear them perfectly. The scene showcased the show's key comedic elements: the flawed high-tech gadgets, Smart's unwavering confidence in them, and the Chief's mounting frustration. The sales pitch worked. NBC executives were so impressed by the scene's cleverness and comedic potential that they greenlit the full pilot, proving that the Cone of Silence wasn't just a great gag. It was the key that unlocked the entire series. The villain controversy that nearly got the show cancelled. When the creators pitched the pilot to ABC, one of the network's biggest objections was to the main villain, Mr. Big. The character was played by the talented actor Michael Dunn, who was a little person. According to the show's creators, ABC executives flatly stated, "You can't have the head of an international criminal organization played by a midget." This objection, rooted in the narrow-minded casting conventions of the time, was a primary reason ABC rejected the pilot. The executives felt that audiences wouldn't be able to take the villain seriously. The irony, of course, was that Get Smart was a parody, and having an unconventional villain would have perfectly matched the show's satirical tone. When NBC eventually picked up the show, they had no problem with the casting and featured Michael Dunn in the series premiere. His performance as the megalomaniacal crime boss was both entertaining and memorable, proving the original ABC executives completely wrong. 6. Agent 99 was almost fired over a deodorant commercial. Barbara Feldon came dangerously close to losing her career-defining role over something as absurd as a deodorant commercial. During the second week of filming, a producer pulled her aside with shocking news. The show's primary sponsor, a competing deodorant soap company, was demanding she be fired immediately. The problem was a promotional spot Feldon had filmed for a Revlon deodorant product 6 months earlier. In the 1960s, single sponsors held immense power, and they viewed her previous commercial as a direct conflict of interest. The sponsor's CEO believed that every time Agent 99 appeared on screen, viewers would be reminded of their competitor's product, essentially giving free advertising to the enemy during their own sponsored show. Feldon found herself in an impossible situation, on the verge of being terminated from her dream role because of an unrelated job. Fortunately for television history, the show's producers and network executives fought for her, arguing that her performance was too valuable to lose over sponsor politics. They won the battle, and she kept the role that would make her a household name. Don Adams's gambling addiction forced an entire episode rewrite. Don Adams's off-screen life was plagued by a serious, compulsive gambling addiction, a struggle that once directly and dramatically impacted the production of the show. His addiction often put him in financial jeopardy, and on one occasion, he found himself owing a significant amount of money to creditors. To pay off the debt quickly, he was forced to take a lucrative 2-week performing engagement in Las Vegas, right in the middle of the show's filming schedule. The timing couldn't have been worse, as it coincided with the production of the episode Ice Station Siegfried, a major episode that was supposed to feature Maxwell Smart prominently. Rather than halt production, the creative team made the unprecedented decision to film around him. They drastically reduced his screen time, rewriting the script to have other characters carry the action. If you watch the episode, Maxwell Smart appears for only a few brief moments, a strange anomaly that was the direct result of the star's real-life personal crisis. The show was deemed un-American and almost never aired. When creators Mel Brooks and Buck Henry first pitched the Get Smart pilot to ABC in 1965, the executives didn't just dislike it, they found it offensive and dangerous. They officially called the show un-American and demanded major changes that would have destroyed the series. The network's main complaint was the show's irreverent tone and the way it made fun of American spy agencies during the height of the Cold War. They felt that mocking secret agents was inappropriate and harmful to national morale. But their proposed solutions were even more bizarre. They insisted that the show add a lovable dog as Maxwell Smart's sidekick to give it more heart. Even more strangely, they demanded that the writers add scenes showing Maxwell Smart returning home to his mother to report on his missions. Mel Brooks was absolutely horrified by these suggestions, famously retorting that he hated mothers on television and that Maxwell Smart had no mother and never had one. He refused to make the changes, ABC rejected the pilot, and the show was considered dead until NBC, in need of a vehicle for Don Adams, saved it from oblivion. Don Adams was the network's forced, second-choice star. The story of Don Adams becoming Maxwell Smart is not one of a perfect match, but of a corporate mandate. The show's creators, Mel Brooks and Buck Henry, had written the pilot specifically for another actor, Tom Poston. Poston, known for his deadpan delivery and physical comedy, was their ideal choice to play a more bumbling Inspector Clouseau-style character. A full pilot was even filmed with Poston in the lead role. But after ABC rejected it, the creators took the concept to NBC. The NBC executives were interested, but they had one non-negotiable condition. They already had the comedian, Don Adams, under an exclusive and expensive contract, and were paying him whether he was working or not. They desperately needed to find him a starring role to justify their investment. They told Brooks and Henry that they would only buy the show if they completely rewrote it to fit Don Adams. This forced a radical transformation of the character, shifting the comedy from physical slapstick to the rapid-fire, verbal, catchphrase-driven style that Adams was known for. The Maxwell Smart we know and love was born not from a creative choice, but from a purely financial decision by a network. The original Maxwell Smart was fired after a failed pilot. This brings us to the man who was almost Maxwell Smart, Tom Poston. As mentioned, the original pilot was written for and starred him. His version of the character was reportedly much more physical and less verbal, leaning into a slapstick style of comedy. However, when the pilot was screened for ABC executives, they were completely unimpressed, calling it unfunny. Their rejection of Poston's performance and the overall concept is what put the show into turnaround and ultimately led to its salvation at NBC, while Tom Poston went on to have a long and successful career as a beloved character actor. He lost the role that would have made him a leading man and a television icon. It's one of classic TV's great what-ifs. Had ABC's executives had a different sense of humor, the world would have known a completely different and likely catchphrase-free Maxwell Smart. 1. The heartbreaking and hidden truth of Edward Platt's death. And at number 1, we have the most tragic and heartbreaking secret of all. On March 19, 1974, just 4 years after the show ended, the world was shocked to learn that Edward Platt, the beloved actor who played the chief, had died at the age of 58. The cause of death was publicly reported as a sudden heart attack. But years later, his family made the brave decision to reveal the truth. Edward Platt had died by suicide. The actor had been struggling for an extended period with severe, untreated depression and was facing mounting financial pressures after the show's end. This tragic revelation added a layer of profound sadness to the memory of the actor who had brought such warmth, dignity, and brilliant. Comedic frustration to his role as the long-suffering chief of Control, his family's decision to eventually share the truth helped to shed light on the hidden mental health struggles that even successful and beloved entertainers can face behind their public personas. A heartbreaking final secret from a show that brought so much laughter to the world. From a star who was the network's second choice to a pilot that was rejected as un-American, the story behind the making of Get Smart is a testament to accidental genius. The show, a brilliant and timeless parody of the spy genre, was forged in chaos. From casting controversies and sponsor demands to the very real and often painful personal struggles of its beloved actors. Its enduring legacy is not just in the iconic catchphrases, the shoe phone, or the cone of silence, but in its unique ability to find sophisticated satire in the silliest of situations. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most beloved masterpieces are not born from a perfect plan, but are stumbled upon through a series of happy accidents, last-minute saves, and sheer, bumbling luck, a process that Maxwell Smart himself would have understood perfectly.